we're talking about what she was saying, that she learned from the Chipko movement. From Chipko, I learned about biodiversity and diversity-based living economies. So the protection of both has become my life's mission. She says my life's mission is to, one is learning about biodiversity and biodiversity-based living economies and protecting them also. As I described in my book, Monocultures of the Mind, the failure to understand biodiversity and its many functions is at the root of the impoverishment of nature and culture. Now, you need to understand this sentence a little bit. Now, first of all, you must understand what is biodiversity. What is biodiversity? Biodiversity is the fact that on the face of earth, there is the diversity of all livestock, the diversity of all plants and animals, all millions of species which are coexistent and together they are there. That's called biodiversity. Okay? I don't know whether they have given the meaning. Yeah, they have given them in the meaning section, you see that. Biodiversity is the variety of life in the world or in a particular habitat or ecosystem. So it is the variety, that is the diversity of the species, the plants and animals that are there on the earth is called biodiversity. Now, what does she say about biodiversity? The failure to understand biodiversity. What is the failure to understand biodiversity? The fact is, all the species of plants and animals are there on this earth. Now, if you don't understand this fact, they are all coexistent together. If you don't understand this fact, that is the failure to understand biodiversity and its many functions. What is the functions of biodiversity? So that is the interdependence of all these species of plants and animals living together is what is keeping everything stable on this face of earth. Right from rainfall, right from earth, soil in its place, right from the water in the sea, right from the seasons that are happening, the seasons that change every year. This is happening because of this biodiversity. So if you cut the trees, rains won't come, the plants won't grow, there's no earth, there's no water in the sea, there's no water in the river, and the clouds don't form. It's a circle. So if this biodiversity, that is, if the species of earth, species of plants and animals which are on the earth are not together, if they are not together, the earth will cease to exist. The normalcy on earth will cease to exist. You see, the failure to understand biodiversity and its many functions is the root of impoverishment of nature and culture. Impoverishment, the process of becoming poor, the process of making something poor. Now this is the cause, this is the main root of nature becoming its poor, nature coming to its poverty, meaning poor quality of nature, meaning nature not existent, not being the way it should be. So this is what is the root cause of poverty of nature and culture. Your life, your culture, your nature, everything will lose its purity and its proper form if you don't recognize that the biodiversity is what is making everything, is what is keeping everything together on the face of earth. I know, guys, this is a little boring as against, some interesting story or, or something story like will be more interesting for you guys. But this is a little boring, you might call it. But this also becomes interesting if you try to understand how these terms and these terms are formed, how these meanings come out. And this is a real thing that you as youngsters should understand, so that you can make a change to this going forward in your lives. It's important from that perspective. So please give attention to it and please try to understand. I know it is a little boring. I accept, but still I would say you should continue to know this, and also for the sake of examination as well as for the sake of the humanity on earth, for the sake of nurturing the nature on the face of earth, you should understand this. I hope you will be with me in understanding in this lesson. So I'll be continuing with it. So the lessons I learned about diversity in the Himalayan forest, I transferred to the protection of biodiversity on our farms. Now what did she do? On our farms, I started something that I learned from the Himalayan forest. The lessons I learned about diversity in the Himalayan forest. The lessons that she learned, what did she do? I transferred to the protection of biodiversity on our farms. So she created a farm. What did she do on these farms? What she did is to protect biodiversity. How do you protect biodiversity? You protect biodiversity, but by nurturing them, by taking care of all those species which may become extinct. Stop the varieties of species from becoming extinct. This is how you protect all the species, and this is how you protect biodiversity. What did she do? I started saving seeds. Seeds of various species. I started saving them from farmers' fields. I started saving seeds from farmers' fields, and then realized we needed a farm for demonstrating the training. So she started saving the seeds of different species, different plants, and she realized that she needs a farm to do experiment on this, to train people on this. Thus, Navadanya farm was started in 1994 in the Doon Valley. Now do Google this out, you will get more information. And we are not talking about, the best thing about this lesson is, we are not talking about any fictional story. We are not talking about any imaginary story which may or may not happen. What we are talking about is something that is actually there. This is the achievement of somebody that we are talking about. Do Google out for Navadanya movement, Navadanya farm, and also there are certain others which come. The next one that you should Google out is Earth Democracy and Earth University also. I'll keep telling you as the lesson proceeds. So here she says in 1994 she started this Navadanya farm in the Doon Valley, located in the lower elevation of Himalayan region of Uttarakhand province. I told you even the Chipko movement happened in the Uttarakhand province. So this Doon Valley where she started this biodiversity farm also is in Uttarakhand province. Today, we conserve and grow 630 varieties of rice. Now, what do they do here? They have got 630 varieties of rice seeds, which they grow here. And they've got something around 150 varieties of wheat. Can you imagine? You know, probably, maybe 10 varieties of rice you will find when you go to a store. Sona Masuri, and then one Dappa Akki, and one, Jeera rice, Basmati rice. Like this, maybe 10 varieties you will find in the store when you go to buy rice. Now, in actual, she's saying they've got around 630 varieties of rice itself, which they have got in their farm. And 150 varieties of wheat, and hundreds of other species. Isn't this interesting, guys? Yes, it is. If you put your mind, I'm sure this is interesting. We practice and promote a biodiversity intensive form of farming that produces more food and nutrition per acre. Now, this is something that you should know. Amount of food grains that are grown per acre of cultivation differs from species to species. Now, one species of a vegetable, if you put in 1 acre of land, how many kilograms of that vegetable can you grow? So if you observe, now there are different varieties of tomatoes, different varieties of all kinds of vegetables. That one kind is the nati kind, which is actually the native kind. And the second one is the hybrid kind that you get, which this native kind is, they have done research and formed new species which are called this hybrid, which produces more volume in 1 acre. A native species may grow very less in an acre, whereas certain of the other species that are there, she says there are many species of these seeds which grow more in quantity in every acre of cultivation, which means more food, more vegetables you grow in every acre, which means you can quench the hunger of so many people more. We have this problem of abundance in India. What is in abundance? Population is in abundance. We have a very big population, and this population has to eat food every day. So you need a lot of food that has to be grown. And who and where does this grow? This food is grown by the farmer in the lands. And if that farmer is able to grow more food for every acre of the cultivation, it is the hunger of your people that is going to be taken care of. Now, we practice and promote a biodiversity intensive form of farming that produces more food and nutrition per acre. So not only more food, there are many which grow big and which are, more in number also. But nutritionally, it may be not so good as your native variety. But she's saying what we grow is abundant in both numbers, volume, and also in nutrition. The conservation of biodiversity is therefore also the answer to the food and nutrition crisis. So we in India, because of population explosion, we have a food crisis, meaning we don't have enough food for the people to eat. She's saying that this is the answer for even food crisis that we have in our country. What is the answer? The biodiversity, where you grow and conserve species of vegetables which grow more per acre. Navadanya, the movement of biodiversity and conservation and organic farming that I started in 1987 is spreading. So this is the movement that she started, and it's become quite popular now. So far, we have worked with farmers to set up more than 100 community seed banks. So they have something called as seed banks, where they protect and conserve varieties of seeds, varieties of species of seeds. So 100 community seed banks across India. So she has, they have got now 100 seed banks like that. We have saved more than 3,000 rice varieties. Rice varieties of more than 3,000 they have got in these seed banks. We also help farmers make a transition from fossil fuel and chemical-based monocultures to biodiverse ecological systems nourished by the sun and the soil. Now, there's a lot for you to understand in this. First thing is, what is monoculture? Monoculture is cultivating one particular variety of a species in a given area of land. This given area of land can be 1 acre of land, it can be one whole field, it can be one specific area in which cultivation is done. So having one species of a vegetable or a fruit growing in one particular area, this is called monoculture. So what she's saying is, so this is about monoculture. We also help farmers make a transition. Transition, a changeover. Change from what to what? She's describing two things. One is using fossil fuel and chemical-based monocultures. Fossil fuel, what is fossil fuel? Fossil fuel is the fuel that you get from the earth. The crude oil, the petroleum and the coal that you get from the earth. These are called fossil fuels. And chemical-based monocultures, meaning monocultures, meaning cultivation, which take chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, chemical insecticides. So all these we are trying to move over from. So we don't want farmers to be engaged in using fossil fuel and also using chemical based what is that called, manure, and also insecticides and pesticides. From this, what do they want? What does she want the farmers to move on to? To ecological systems nourished by sun and the soil. You should have ecological systems, that is the systems that are nurtured by soil and sun, meaning natural. So you use natural manure, you use natural pesticides. Now what do you mean by this organic farming? So you must have heard about this. Everywhere now you see the popularly available organic food, organic vegetables that are grown. If you see in Bangalore city, there are so many organic stores that sell organic products. Organic farming is nothing but farming where chemical products are not used. No chemical fertilizer, no chemical insecticides, and no chemical pesticides. So the food grains and vegetables which are grown using natural products, natural raw materials like natural manure and natural pesticides. This is called organic farming. So she's saying that you should go to organic farming where you don't use chemicals so that you can protect the ecosystem in your soil. What is the ecosystem comprised of? Think. Now you should know. These are the things that you should know as human beings, as children of the soil. Now there is this earthworm that grows in the soil. Earthworm is called the friend of the farmer, because earthworm does a lot of there is some, I don't know much about that, but then there is something that the earthworm does which is very good for the soil and for the plants. It is to do something to do with some gas or some product that it gives, which is good for the roots of the plants. So when you use chemical fertilizers, when you use chemical pesticides, where do you find these earthworms? Earthworms all die, and so this ecosystem is spoiled. When you extinguish one species altogether in the ecosystem, the whole chain of ecosystem gets spoiled. The whole chain of the food chain gets spoiled. So in order to prevent that, she says, we are helping farmers make a transition meaning changeover from fossil fuel and chemical based monocultures to biodiverse ecological systems nourished meaning nurtured, cultivated, grown by the sun and the soil. Now this Navadanya movement is started by something called as earth democracy. I would like to explain to you, I will explain to you in the next session about all this. Now we will continue with this. Biodiversity has been my teacher of abundance and freedom of cooperation and mutual giving. Now we will stop at this session and we will continue in the next session for this. See you over in the next session.